So I had this question in my mind this morning about how is it that modern progressives have become such neo-fascist liberals in supporting a totally Orwellian dictatorial type of police state? Because when I was growing up I was born in the 60s, but I was a teenager in the 70s, in the late 70s, and growing up in the 70s and the 80s in Mendocino, California, and we also lived when we were younger by Yosemite. And a lot of my mom and dad's friends were like, back in those days, all the hippies that we knew were artists and creative people into free thought, free speech, and they were into living off the land, organic gardening, homeschooling their kids. They were against the man, live off the land, don't trust the government. And a lot of the ones that we knew, they were supporters of the Second Amendment. They all believed in bearing arms. And I knew some hippies. I knew these people in Mendocino. They were called the truckers. They all lived in old converted heavy-duty GMC trucks, like these old 2-ton trucks or 3-ton trucks, and they would fix them up and live in them and make them out of redwood with shingles on the side. And some of them were like master mechanics. Like this one guy, he could fix anything. He could manufacture parts. I mean, back in the days, this was before they had CNC, and people made stuff by hand and welded stuff. And I knew some of these guys, they would manufacture their own arms. And and of course there was the people that were into pot growing and all that stuff and all that. And I remember everybody was into freedom and stuff, and free thought and art and music and freedom of expression and all that. And now the modern progressives, all that stuff's bad. Homeschooling your kids is bad. Can't grow your own organic food. They want to make permits where you have to be regulated as to what kind of food you can grow. And they've been co-opted. They've been co-opted by the deep state. They're against, you can't collect rainwater in Oregon. You can't do this, you can't do that. They've become like cyborgs. It's like the modern progressives got taken over by sort of a cyborg class. Like, I think during the late 80s, early 90s, as technology advanced and the computer nerd, we ignored the thing that happened is we ignored the computer nerds. We ignored them in the 80s and the 90s as they became more prominent. All of a sudden, all this technology and ability to communicate so rapidly exploded on the scene. So being at the hub of control of all this in Silicon Valley, all these computer nerds who now became the modern day cyborg thought police of our modern day Orwellian society, they are now at the hub and control of it all. And they've sort of totally hijacked the narrative of what it means to be progressive. I mean, the one thing you're allowed to have organic food at your store. The one thing in progressive communities that you still have is you have organic health food stores, and that's still allowed. But we don't want people having too much freedom. Yeah, it seems like they're against everything now. No freedom of thought, no freedom of expression. Everything is controlled. Everything is controlled by a politically correct narrative. In the old days, I remember free thinkers and what you would call hippies that were intellectuals. They would engage in open debate, and they would get quite ferocious, and they would engage in debate and discussion about things at communities, get-togethers, or where there was meetings on certain subjects, or activist groups getting together and doing things or whatever like that. Not now. No freedom of expression allowed now, but you better conform. It's about conform and be like everybody else. You can't. and that's why I really wasn't really into the whole deadhead seed, because all my friends that were dead, it's like they're all the same. They sort of like neutralized the hippie movement into just like this sameness movement where everybody just wears a tie-dyed t-shirt, they all listen to the same kind of music, they all look the same, they all dress the same. But I remember at the beginning of the hippie movement, man, it seemed like there was a lot of really cool people that were into really artistic, alternative, new ideas. They were into alternative energy and wind power machines. I met this guy that was like one of the forerunners in wind power energy in Mendocino County, and I don't know where he is today, but he's probably got some big company or something. But he was like making everything by hand, from scratch, you know, welding the parts together. And he was showing me, I mean, he had these Edison batteries, these old Edison batteries, he was into solar too, that were made out of glass, that were like these massive Edison batteries from like 100 years ago that were made out of glass, that were thick, super thick glass. And those are like, he said they were just built to last like forever. But yeah, I know what happened. How did we get to this Orwellian police state progressive class mentality? I mean, it's just amazing. I think I know what happened. I think I know what happened. And that's what I'm going to put in my next video.